All right, y'all, you're locked on Falcons. I'm your host, Aaron Freeman, and today I am joined by none other than Jarvis Davis of the Locked On Sports Atlanta and ATL Day Ones podcast. And we are going to be focusing on the keys to victory, what we can expect from Marcus Mariota and Drake London heading into this week one matchup between the Falcons and their hated rival, the New Orleans Saints.
You are Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So, guys, you know me, I'm Aaron Freeman, aka Sirius Black, aka Mr. Drew, aka your very humble podcast host.
My bad, dog.
And of course, no problem. I am joined here by Jarvis Davis and his little one for today's Locked On Falcons podcast, part of the Locked On Sports Atlanta podcast family. And today's episode of Locked On Falcons is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, more odds, more lines than ever before. Bet Online is where the game starts, and we thank everyone that makes Locked On Falcons their first listen each and every day. Locked On Falcons is, of course, free and available on a variety of podcast platforms Monday through Friday, including Apple, Odyssey, Google, Spotify, and YouTube. And if you subscribe to the Locked On Falcons YouTube channel, hit that bell, give us a like. You will get the video version of the podcast the night before the audio drops. So today I am joined, of course, by Jarvis Davis, who's been a frequent guest on this podcast over the last several months and will continue to be a frequent guest on this podcast over the next several months, if not years, because Jarvis Davis and I are the two guys giving you the Locked On Falcons postcast every Sunday live after the game on the Locked On Sports Atlanta podcast feed on YouTube and, of course, on the Locked On Falcons audio platform. But Jarvis is going to be with us pretty regularly throughout the season on Friday, sort of talk about the keys to victory that we will then talk about whether or not the Falcons actually did the thing that Jarvis and I said they need to do to win on Sunday after the game. So, Jarvis, my friend, welcome back to Locked On Falcons.
Man, happy to be here, my friend. I think that, it is, like you said, it's Aints week. I probably won't use that S for the rest of the show, like I started off with. So, it's Aints week. And hey, man, we're here to talk some Falcons, man. So let's do it.
Yeah, finally, we got some football coming. We're recording this Thursday, a few hours before the kickoff game between the Rams and the Bills. We're going to be looking forward to that. Of course, most of you guys are going to be listening to this afterwards, so you know the result of that game. We don't quite yet, but obviously we got football tonight. We got football over the next couple of days. And, whether or not it's winning football remains to be seen from this Atlanta Falcons team. Jarvis, I will give you the floor. What are you going to be focused on? What do you feel like the Falcons need to do in order to win on Sunday against these Aints?
To be honest with you, man, I have to look towards Alvin Kamara, right? Because he's been a thorn in the side of the Falcons for ever since he stepped in on the field and put on that black and gold uniform for the Aints. And when you think about it, like, Deion, I got to thinking, like, I'm like, okay, when he hasn't went off, like, who's been the guy to kind of, like, keep him at bay? And that's Deion Jones. And he's not going to be around. We've talked about, at length about how he's probably not going to wear a Falcons uniform ever again, for the most part, if they're able to, find a suitor for him. But I think that, that's the guy that you have to really focus in on if you're DPs, right? So who's going to be that guy to step in for Deion Jones? Is it going to be Rashaan Evans? Can he stick with him in pass coverage? Or can he, make sure he's tracking him down and meeting him in the backfield instead of on the other side 5 yards down the field? Like, those are some of the questions you have to ask. Or is it Mykal Walker? Is Mykal Walker that guy, to be able to step in for Debo and try to keep Alvin Kamara at bay? So I think that defensive, scheme, or how they're going to guard or try to, keep Alvin Kamara, at bay, I think that's going to be the key to this game, because we know that once Alvin Kamara gets going, that run game gets going, that's going to lead to death when it comes to, play action. And we know Jameis Winston, even though he can be a 30-30 guy, And I'm not talking about the ESPN documentary. I'm talking about 30 picks and 30 touchdowns. Even though he can be that guy, but if he has a run game going, he can be very, very dangerous.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Mykal Walker is probably going to be the guy tasked to handle those responsibilities. It's not something that Rashaan Evans was known for in his days in Tennessee, nor do I
Indeed.
expect him to be known for in Atlanta. We'll talk a little bit later about Mykal Walker and sort of what he has to do, but I think you're right. It starts with Alvin Kamara. If he gets going, it's going to be virtually impossible for the Falcons unless Marcus Mariota and this offense decides they want to drop a 40 burger on the Saints. But you just look at last year's two matchups against the Saints. In the first matchup,
Indeed.
they held Kamara to 50 yards. They won that game. In the second matchup, he had 146 yards, and they lost that game. And so if you can keep him in check, they're going to have enough challenges, with the Saints passing game and with Jameis Winston, who did not play in either one of those Saints games last year. They're going to have enough challenges dealing with that. But if you throw in the Saints being able to move the ball at will on the ground, it's going to be virtually impossible for them to start. So that's on, the defensive front. That's on the linebackers, keeping Kamara in check in coverage as well. And we'll see if this defensive front is up to task. Jarvis, we've been talking about this all summer long. It's really about the trenches, right? Everything with the Falcons is about the trenches. They're going to get tested, not only in terms of their defense up front, but also on their offensive line. This Saints defensive line has routinely dominated this matchup, and we're just kind of hoping that maybe this is the year where that is not the case, and we'll sort of see. But if they get their butts kicked in the trenches, as has been too often the case in these matchups with the Saints, it's going to be tough. So they're going to have to bring their A game on Sunday, and we'll just sort of have to see if they can.
And you know what? I think that, Kaleb McGary needs to take a trip to the courthouse because, his father is Cam Jordan, and I think it's time for him to get a divorce. Like, how people talk about, getting divorced in their parents and all that stuff, which is absolutely mind-boggling to me that a child would come up with that concept, because I probably would have been murdered, if those words would have came out of my mouth as a child. But I think that, but all jokes aside though, like, Kaleb McGary needs to step up. He needs to be the guy. And I'm not even talking about Drew Dalman. I ain't even got to that guy yet. But I think Kaleb McGary is the guy that needs to step up and make a statement and say, you know what? These past few years, I haven't been doing it right. I finally figured it out. I changed my body, right? I'm looking different physically. But can that transfer? Can those adjustments I've made physically to my body, can that transfer to me being a better offensive lineman? And I think that's the question that needs to be answered. We want to see that. I know you want to see it. I know we want to see it. You talked about it. They've won this matchup pretty consistently, even when the Falcons have won. Matt Ryan has found a way to figure it out to get a dub. And I know that may sound crazy to folks, but yeah, he did do that. Even when he was under siege, he still found a way to beat the Saints. So I think that Kaleb McGary is the guy that you have to take a look at it and be like, man, this is the time where you need to just do what you need to do, man. And if you don't earn a contract with this particular team, you earn another contract with your next team.
Absolutely. And we will continue today's conversation talking about, moving beyond the trenches to maybe the skill position guys, talking about what Drake London and what we can expect from him and whether or not he'll be contributing. Also, what can we expect from Marcus Mariota, who is a player, at least on the Locked On Falcons podcast, has not been off discussed. We've been talking about another quarterback a little bit more, but we'll give Marcus Mariota his flowers on today's episode to see if he can step up and fill those shoes of Matt Ryan on Sunday against the Saints. But guys, before we get there, the Falcons feel like they've built a team that is going to win on Sunday. And maybe you're looking to build a similar team that's going to help your small business catch fire this fall. And LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier for you to find the right people that you want to talk to faster and for free. You can create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs and reach the world's largest professional network of over 800 million people. LinkedIn Jobs helps you spread the word that you're hiring and gives like screening questions that make it easy for you to focus on the candidates with the right skills and the right experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to hire, who you'd like to interview. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering that quality hire versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs will help you find the right candidates that you want to talk to faster. Did you know that every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Just post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So, guys, we are here with Jarvis Davis, of course, of the ATL Day Ones podcast, which you can find daily on the Locked On Sports Atlanta podcast feed, which is also home to two other shows in addition to ATL Day Ones. That's A to Z with Mark Zinno, Hitting Hard with John Chuckery, and of course, every day Jarvis is talking with Tanitra Batiste, the co-host of ATL Day Ones, talking about local sports teams, Georgia, the Braves, the Hawks, the Falcons, as well as national sports headlines as well. And of course, you can find it all on the same podcast feed, the same ones that you are listening to or watching Locked On Falcons. And if you check out the YouTube version of Locked On Sports Atlanta, you will get the Locked On Falcons and Locked On Braves postcast. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, Jarvis and I on the Locked On Falcons will be coming at you every single week, Sunday, Saturday, Monday, throughout Thursday, whenever the Falcons are playing live after the game. So make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta on YouTube for that. So Jarvis, let's talk about, for me, I think one of the bigger question marks hanging over the head of the Falcons this week going up against the Saints is Drake London, right? He got hurt in that first preseason game. All signs indicated, he'll be ready to go week 1. You know, every statement Arthur Smith has made since then seems to say that he's progressing towards that. He's on track, no sign for panic. But in your eyes, how important is it that the Falcons get Drake London out there week 1 in order to win this game?
I think it's important, but I think you got to be smart with it, right? Because at the end of the day, you know that his history, right? They took the chance on him. They looked at his history and said, you know what, this might be a good idea to go ahead and draft this guy. And when you draft a guy like that, I think it's a matter of knowing how to deal with him, how to handle him, right? So you can maximize that potential that you see in him. And I think that that's why you've seen him being limited at practice. I think that when he got hurt and he tweaked that knee, and we still kind of figure out like what the knee was, what type of knee sprain, MCL or something like that. But I think that, even though, they've been a little core with that, I think that you have to understand that you have to kind of handle with him with kick gloves. And to be honest with you, that's what you have to deal with because you took that chance. And I think that they're not going to mess that up by just throwing him out there saying, hey, he's going to be out there for every snap. So I think that when you figure out a plan and how to handle him, and that's what they're doing. And I think that, you just hope that it actually works out, once he steps on the field on Sunday.
Yeah, I agree there. And the guy that's going to have to get him the ball if he's out there on Sunday is, of course, Marcus Mariota. And Jarvis, since I haven't spent too much time talking about Mariota on this podcast, largely due to my belief,
I wonder why,
that he is kind of the bridge quarterback for the eventual ascension, I guess you could say, of Desmond Ridder at some point in time. But Marcus Mariota has an opportunity to basically shut me up in that regard and go out there and play really well on Sunday. And I think certainly against the Saints defense, he'll have a chance. We talk about the offensive line, protecting him, keeping him upright. But the thing that Mariota brings to the table that Matt Ryan never brought is that ability to extend plays outside the pocket, right? When the pass protection broke down for Matt Ryan, it spelled trouble because you weren't going to get too many of those second chance opportunities, but you will definitely get that with Marcus Mariota. And hopefully he is, getting those second chance opportunities, heaving up those deep balls to Drake London down the field and Kyle Pitts and all that sort of stuff. But what do you sort of think Mariota has to do in order to help this team win on Sunday? Does he need to be able to make those plays with his legs and do all that stuff, that off structure stuff, or does he need to play within the system and just sort of be that ball distributor that we saw Matt Ryan do at a high level? Where do you sort of see Mariota falling on that spectrum?
I think it's definitely the former. Like he has to use his legs, right? Because athletic quarterbacks or being able to stay in plays, our defensive coordinators and the defensive linemen is nightmare. Like I've heard Cam Jordan say with his mouth, the guy who always is willing to talk trash or take jabs at the Atlanta Falcons when he has a chance. He even said, hey, it's different now. Like Matt Ryan was, we knew where he was. And if he said, but Marcus Mariota is a guy that can move around, he can extend plays. If something's not there, he's going to take off and run. And we saw that like in the preseason. If it wasn't there, that first or second read, sometimes, no reads, he took off. Marcus Mariota took off. And I think I don't think that's by chance either. I think that is what Arthur Smith told him. Like, because the biggest thing for Marcus Mariota, he can't turn the ball over, and he hasn't been that known to do that much, but in his career. But I think that, as an older guy and a guy that understands the system a little bit better, right now, what Arthur Smith wants from him, I think that you can't turn the ball over, because I don't care who's at quarterback. If this team turns the ball over, they're not going to win this game. But if he doesn't turn the ball over and is able to extend plays when things aren't there, and even have some call run plays as well, I think Arthur Smith is going to throw that in the fray as well. So I think that, when you have one of the best defensive linemen, in Cam Jordan being able to do what he's done against the Falcons, talking about it, then you got to pay attention.
Absolutely. I think this is a great opportunity for Mariota to really silence his critics, yours truly included. I haven't been criticized.
Are they called haters? I think they call them haters on social media, on Twitter.
I wouldn't technically call myself a Marcus Mariota hater. I just don't. I don't talk him up. Like, that's basically it.
Right. If you don't talk about him, you can't hate on him, right?
Yeah, basically. So I really do think this is a great opportunity for him to really show that he's back on the map. And when you saw all these various quarterback rankings over the summer that had him in the bottom 3 of quarterbacks in the league, and even I, a quote unquote hater of Marcus Mariota, is like, yeah, that's very low for
Right.
a guy that's done the things that he's done in this league. And so I think he can really show people that there is plenty left in the tank for him as a viable starter on the playoff team. Whether I don't expect that to be here in Atlanta, but he can showcase his skill set certainly for potentially brighter opportunities, whether that's in Atlanta or elsewhere in the future. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Marcus Mariota can do quarterbacking the offense. I'm also looking forward to what Mykal Walker can do quarterbacking the defense, now that we know he's going to be calling the defense, wearing the green dot. We'll talk with Jarvis about that. I know Jarvis was one of the people that was hyping up Mykal Walker very early in the summer as a potential breakout candidate, and now he's going to have that sort of pressure on him and be the quarterback for the Falcons defense, and we'll get into that as we continue today's episode. But before we get there, guys, this matchup between the Falcons and Saints is a tough one. The Falcons are a home underdog. The Saints are favored by 5.5 points. And while, normally I would say stay away from any bets that Aaron suggests you make, I know for me, I'm gonna lean towards the Falcons being able to cover that sort of spread. And whether you want to take my advice or go against my advice, because historically speaking, I usually don't do a great job picking the Falcons games, you can head on over to betonline.net, the number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, podcasts, and more for the opening week's games. BetOnline is also your continued source for sports wagering, including live betting, esports scores, whether that's NFL, it's MLB, MMA, boxing, golf, and so much more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to sign up and learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So, guys, before we continue and wrap up today's Locked On Falcons, I do want to thank everyone that makes Locked On Falcons their first listen. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Falcons on YouTube if you haven't already done so. Hit that bell, give us a like. Also, give us a 5-star rating on your preferred podcast platform of choice, iTunes, Apple, all that stuff and more. And always thank you guys for making Locked On Falcons your first listen, but always recommend a second listen. Why not check out the Ultimate Football Preview? which is wrapping up, I believe, on Friday, where, the 8-episode extravaganza previewing all of the different divisions. We had the NFC South one, I believe, on Wednesday. And so check that out on its own podcast feed. Just search Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022 on Odyssey, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. So, Jarvis, we learned today when talking to Dean Pease at the press conference that Mykal Walker will be tasked with wearing the green dot for the defense. And for those of you guys not familiar with that term, that is basically the player that has the radio in his head, in his helmet, that can communicate with the coaches in the sideline to basically do the play calls for the defense, similar to what the quarterback does for the offense. Formerly, that duty was held by Foye Oluokun, and then in previous years that was Deion Jones, and that was kind of that basically the only player that the Falcons brought into camp outside of Deion Jones that had experience doing that was Nick Kwiatkowski. That was not something that Rashaan Evans did in his days in Tennessee. Obviously, Troy Anderson was a rookie, so he hasn't done that in the NFL level. But now it's tasked for Mykal Walker, a player that's been praised for his communication skills, his intelligence, all these various things. As I said earlier, Jarvis, you were one of the people early this summer looking at Mykal Walker as a breakout candidate. Does this sort of confirm your expectations, and do you feel like now this is an opportunity for him to live up to that status as that breakout star potentially on this Falcons defense?
In talking with him, you kind of get the vibe. You pick up on vibes, right? Even though my career fell short of the NFL, I played college ball, and I think that when you talk, being around certain types of players, right? I've been around a lot of different types of football players, and when you talk to Mykal, you kind of just get the sense that he understands. He has that it factor, like he has that thing where people will follow. And you pick up on those things. And I think that, Dean Pease picked up on it because he said this year, when he was speaking about Mykal Walker, that, he picked that he had already in his head that Mykal Walker was going to be his signal caller last year at the end of the season, because he understood exactly what he brings to the table. And I think that when you talk about, when you see a coach kind of pick up on that, like very early on, it kind of it signifies that guy is ready to go. He's itching for an opportunity. He just needs the opportunity to go ahead and play. And I think that's what Dean Pease is doing by having the green dot, and and I think that Mykal Walker may be one of the reasons why they're okay or comfortable with moving on from Deion Jones. Well, technically they haven't moved on from Deion Jones since there's nothing official. But I think that's, if you take a look at how things are going, that's exactly what it is. So, I think Mykal Walker is ready to go. He understood what he needed to do in order to step into this type of scheme. He had to pick up some weight because he was one of those light flight guy linebackers as well. But he got put on the pounds, and he still had that speed. He still had had it up top, everything he needed up top, in order to be able to be successful in Pease's scheme. So I'm not too surprised, man, that Mykal Walker has that green dot, and I think that this dude's gonna be ready to roll, man.
Absolutely. And hopefully that will facilitate this culture change that Dean Pease is trying to instill. Found out today that this is his 50th season coaching.
Oh God.
So he's bringing a lot of experience to the table, Dean Pease, that is, and we'll see if Mykal Walker can facilitate it on the football field on Sunday, and really get this defense to surprise a lot of folks that I know a lot of people do not have expectations for this defense, or high expectations for this defense heading into the season. And one of the things I'm eagerly anticipating to see how much growth this defense shows from year one to year two. Now that Dean Pease has installed 100% of the defenses, which what he said in offseason, all that stuff and more. So, do you get a feeling, Jarvis, that we're going to see that culture shift ever so slightly on Sunday against the Saints?
I think so, because when you think about it, you have better players. Anytime you have better players, it's easy to establish culture when you have better players. Like, because hey, they can do what you're trying to do on the field, and then if they're able to do what you're trying to do on the field, all the rest of off the field stuff follows. Like that's nothing. Like, it's easy to change culture when you're winning. All you gotta do is win. They have been winning, so if you started winning games, that means that you upgraded your roster, right? And we've seen a lot of turnover on this roster. So I think Arthur Smith really feels good about the 48 guys that they're going to address on Sunday. So, but I think that if you just take a look at the defense on the back end, right? We understand like how terrible it was on the opposite side of AJ Terrell. I'm not gonna say his name because I ain't gonna do that. I'm not that type of guy. I don't like to call players out like that. The dude that was on the other side of AJ Terrell last year, he was terrible. Like, I mean, the teams knew where to throw the football. Like, they just didn't throw AJ Terrell's way. And whenever they did that, they were successful. And they threw to his opposite side of him a lot. And I think that when you have a guy like Hayward on the other side of that, then on the back end of defense, you got younger, more talented guys back there, and Richie Grant and Jalen Hawkins. Those two guys, I believe, is going to be a nice safety tandem. I just remember that I said that they're going to be a nice safety tandem, and I think they're going to be guys that are capable of taking the ball away, and that's when you start talking about that next level of defense, right? That's how you change culture. If you start turning the ball over, that means you're giving your offense short fields. That means you're putting more points on the board. That means you're not on this field as long as you were last year. So I think all those things you throw those things in the pot and you say, you know what? Hey, man, we got a different culture around here. And I think because a lot of people try to make it all difficult and all that stuff, it's simple, man. You start to win games. You start to make plays. That stuff started to show on the field. People understand that, hey, we're getting better. We might not have a better record, but we're getting better. That's the easy culture change. That's the easy way to do it. Just win, baby.
All right, Al Davis, RIP.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. I think, with this defense, basically you have Grady Jarrett, you have AJ Terrell, and everybody else is new, right? Like, not necessarily new to the team, but new to their new roles this year. You mentioned Richie Grant, Jalen Hawkins, Mykal Walker, Anthony Rush, Taquan Graham. All these guys are guys that were reserves last year that are itching for that opportunity to prove themselves. Anthony Rush, very quick to tell me on Twitter that anybody who's questioning his contributions to the team, he can go somewhere. So I don't want to get in that guy's way.
No, man, it's a big dude. and that's coming from a big dude.
Casey Hayward, D. Alford stepping in. Oliver, Lorenzo Carter, Rashawn Evans, all those guys and more that are new to this team and looking, whether it's to basically show, hey, I'm a good football player, someone pay me on the open market, whether that's Atlanta or somebody else, or just, hey, look, in the case of someone like Casey Hayward, like, I'm not ready for retirement at age 33. I got a lot of good football in me, all that stuff and more. Or you're looking at a player, D. Alford, who's like, look, I've been in the CFL for the last couple of years. I'm looking to make my name in the NFL. I've always thought I was an NFL caliber corner, and I get to test myself against, some really good guys early in the season. You got the Saints receivers, Jarvis Landry, Michael Thomas, Chris Olave this week. You got Cooper Kupp next week. You got Tyler Lockett in week 3, as those guys. So
we're going to find out really quickly.
Yeah, we will find out really what this defense is all about right away. And I'm looking forward to what they can do. I'm looking forward to what this offense does. We've been talking for months and months. Yes. Now they actually get, to put their money where their mouth is. And we will finally get to, they can shut us up, at least some of us that have not been talking the right way towards them, Anthony Rush excluded. But, we'll find out on Sunday. And I'm looking forward to seeing what we see Sunday against this Aints team. And then Jarvis and I will be back talking with you guys after the game. So make sure you tune in to Locked On Sports Atlanta, subscribe on YouTube, hit that bell so that you know when we go live on Locked On Sports Atlanta. And of course, if you missed the live video version, you can still check out the Locked On Falcons, the audio version of that postcast on Locked On Falcons podcast feed, as well as the rapid reaction that I'll be putting up a little bit later on Sunday evening, probably ahead of the Sunday night football game. So you guys can check that out as well. But guys, I really appreciate it tuning in for another week of great content. I'm looking forward to what we see from this Falcon team on Sunday. Jarvis, before we duck out of here, let the people know where they can hit you up, as well as what you guys have in store for them over at Locked On Sports Atlanta.
You can follow us on Locked On Sports Atlanta on Twitter at Locked On ATL. Like I said, go to YouTube and hit that like and subscribe button. Go ahead and turn that bell on, as my compadre Aaron would say, and turn those notifications on so you can know when we get ready to pop off. Locked On Falcons postcast, like I said, it will be on YouTube right after the final the clock goes zero. We'll be going live on Locked On Falcons postcast, and you can find the audio version on Locked On Falcons podcast. And you can follow me on Twitter at Jarvis D90. I will respond if you tweet me. Only if you have an avatar. Like if you don't have no picture, I ain't rocking with you. I ain't on respond to Ghost.
There you go. Well, we'll see if we can get another paycheck for the third co-host that we had on today's episode.
Yeah, man, she likes money, man. So, hey.
So I don't know if that's. I hope it's not cutting in my check. A third
Me either. I can't afford to separate no other funds from the house, man.
But we'll see if Falcons win on Sunday, then we will probably have to have a third co-host come on here every single week.
She'll be more than willing. Trust me.
Okay. All right, guys. If you don't know what we're talking about, just go watch the video version of the podcast.
Yes.
You will see. So, guys, really appreciate it. We will see you guys on Sunday, hopefully after a Falcons win.